I remember it so vividly. I was a young girl walking barefoot through my backyard when I stopped in my tracks, overcome by a strange, eerie awareness. What is this place? What is this world that we're experiencing? Is it real or is this not real? And that question has followed me ever since. I have asked it to many, many people over the years. Do you think this world is real, imagined, or somewhere in between? And depending on how they answer it, a second question always emerges. If this world is real, then what's the meaning of it? Why was it created? And if it's not real, then what is it? And why does this feel so real? These aren't just abstract questions, they shape everything about us and how we make sense of this strange curriculum we're all enrolled in, whether you believe you signed up for this or not. If you're new here, I'm Erica, and I've been exploring the world, studying ancient wisdom, forgotten stories, and the teachings of nature to help us navigate this classroom that I call Earth School. And today, we're going to be sitting with this question, not to solve it, but to see what it reveals. Across Earthling history, four main perspectives have emerged in response to these questions. Some say the world is real, created by God for meaning and purpose. This is the traditional perspective, right, within mainstream Christianity, Judaism, and the Islamic beliefs. So you have likely heard this perspective. Others say the world is real, but not created by God. A mistake happened. Something terribly went wrong. We see this echoed in Gnosticism, which is the mystical side of Christianity. But you also see this concept emerge in Plato's Timaeus and Neoplatonicism and some other obscure texts. Some traditions claim that the world is not ultimately real at all. It exists, but it's not real. We are in a dream, a veil, an illusion. It only feels real. And others describe the world as being both real and illusory, depending on your level of perception. In another sense, reality is layered. Maybe you're firm in your beliefs. Maybe you've never really thought about this question before, but either way, you're here and that means something. I'm going to take you through the major lenses our ancestors passed down about the nature of this world. So make sure you hit the subscribe button. Some of these lenses are familiar, others, not so much. And today, we're starting with one of the most provocative lenses, the idea that the world is real, but not divinely authored. Not by the supreme God, but by a lesser force. Now, I'm starting with the most controversial lens. This lens isn't often talked about. It challenges the comforting idea that the world was created of divine intention and replaces it with something far more unsettling, that the world is real, but it wasn't created by a divine source, that something terribly went wrong, that what we're living in is a result of a cosmic error, a misstep, a flawed imitation of something pure. We see this most vividly in the Gnostic text, a text that I discovered in my 20s that most definitely left an impact on me. The Gnostic Gospels were discovered in 1945 near Nag Hammadi, Egypt, by a local farmer. They are a collection of early Christian and mystical texts that offer a radically different view of creation, divinity, and the teachings of Jesus. The reason I became so fascinated with these texts is because they were heavily suppressed. Throughout history, Gnosticism has remained one of the most controversial spiritual perspectives. Across the centuries, its story has been one of hidden knowledge and forbidden teachings. These texts survived persecution and massive amounts of bloodshed throughout the eras. Their texts were destroyed. We should not have these texts, but someone had the sense to hide this copy to be discovered in 1945. This rediscovery revealed a lost diversity in early Christian thought. So what do these texts have to say? And oh my God, do I have chills. The Gnostic texts that I'm going to focus on for this episode are going to be the Apocryphon of John, which is also known as the Secret Book of John, and the text on the origins of the world from how I have interpreted it and how I understand it. I had to read these texts several times to feel like I fully understood it, so stay with me as I walk us through it. I will make it easy. In the beginning, before time, before form, there was only the one, the invisible spirit, the true source. It is described in the secret book of John as, and I quote, a being that is eternal, seeing with an invisible spirit. It is pure light, holy, immaculate. It is ineffable. This text says that this isn't a person or a being. It's more like a pure, infinite essence. You can think of this as like the source of all being, completely still, perfect, and unknowable is how the text describes it. It doesn't create in the way we think of creation. It emanates, meaning it overflows, it radiates parts of itself naturally. This primary source emanates a realm of divine existence called the pleroma, which literally means fullness in Greek. So this primary source or invisible spirit emanates a realm of pleroma, which is divine existence. Now, the pleroma isn't a physical place. It's not a physical place. It's a spiritual dimension made up of emanations. Think of emanations as divine aspects of the invisible spirit. So each divine aspect or emanation is called an aeon. Every aeon represents a specific aspect of the infinite. So one might represent truth, one might represent wisdom, grace, and so on. So in this Gnostic tradition, there is a one invisible spirit that emanates a realm of divine existence called the pleroma that isn't a physical place, but a dimension made up of divine aspects or emanations. And each divine aspect is called an aeon, and each aeon represents a specific aspect of that source. Together, all of these aeons make up the fullness, the total expression of this invisible spirit's perfection. And they are typically all created in a male female pair, balancing out one another. So every aeon is kind of a male female pair. One of these aeons is Sophia, which means wisdom. She's one of the youngest aeons, and she embodies the divine impulse to know, to create. According to the secret book of John, and it's also echoed in On the Origins of the World, Sophia becomes restless. She begins to wish to create something of her own without her male counterpart or the consent of the rest of the aeons. In the text, this isn't like a sin in a moral sense, but it is a curiosity that breaks cosmic balance. Her creative power is vast, but without the harmony from her male partner, the result is an imperfect, distorted reflection of the divine rather than a pure emanation. The secret book of John says, and she conceived a thought from herself, and the product of her thought appeared in the form of a lion-faced serpent, and its eyes were flashing like lightning. This being that Sophia created is called the Yaldabaoth, or the demiurge, and I'm going to refer to this being as the demiurge in this episode. So Sophia births this lion-faced serpent monster called the demiurge, and she is absolutely horrified. The demiurge is chaotic. He's arrogant, and he is blind to the light. Sophia realizes that her act has birthed something outside the harmony of the divine realm. So she casts him out, veiling him, this demiurge, in a cloud to keep him hidden from the other aeons to contain the damage. The secret book of John says she cast it away from her outside those places so that none of the immortals would see it, for she had created in ignorance. This is where the rift occurs between the spiritual realm, the pleroma, and the material one. This, my friends, is the beginning of duality. This demiurge awakens in isolation, unaware of where he came from or that there is any reality beyond himself, and he assumes that he is the first and only God. So he makes a grand declaration and says, and I quote, "I am God and there is no other God besides me." The demiurge begins to create the material world, the heavens, the earth. He starts shaping angels, and he creates these powerful non-human entities that serve as rulers of the material world called the archons. In the secret book of John, it says, and the archons said to his authorities, "Come, let us create a man according to the image of God and according to our likeness." Thus they shaped the human form, but their creation could not stand or move. It was lifeless. Seeing this, Sophia is devastated. On the Origin of the World's text, we're told that Sophia repents and cries out for help to the higher realms. The higher aeons hear her cries and respond with love and compassion, sending a spark of divine light into the human form. The secret book of John describes this moment as the birth of the divine spark within humanity, and it says in the text, and the power of the mother went forth from her and entered the body they had made, and the man came to be because of the power that came down from above. The archons suddenly see the humans stand and move, and they were very jealous. They tried to confine the divine element within the flesh, binding spirit to matter, binding light to clay. This, the text says, is the condition of the human beings, divine essence trapped in material form, unaware of our origin. Over time, the archons ruled the material world and the cosmos. The demiurge and his powers established thrones. They put in rulers, and they set the planets in motion and veiled the truth from all of us below. On the Origin of the World describes their creation as a counterfeit heaven, but Sophia's spark could not be extinguished at all. The text says that an immortal man, a messenger of the true higher Perloma realm, will be sent to awaken humanity, to remind us of our one true origin, the inner light, that divine spark of Sophia that is trapped inside of us. In later Christian Gnostic writings, this revealer is identified as Christ, who descends through the heavens to deliver gnosis, knowledge of who we truly are and where we came from. Knowledge, not faith, is the key to freedom in these Gnostic writings. That is what gnosis means, knowledge. Thus, in the Gnostic view, the human soul carries within it the trapped light of Sophia, the spark of divine wisdom buried in an illusion of matter. The way out of this, the way to a spiritual awakening according to the Gnostic text, is knowledge, not blindly trusting structures and leaders here on earth, because they are a part of the archons trying to keep us in the illusion. The purpose of the knowledge is to remember our true origins and to make the journey back to fullness. But this concept does not begin or end with Gnosticism. You can trace its philosophical roots back to Plato's Timaeus, where the demiurge appears not as evil, but as a cosmic craftsman who shapes the universe from pre-existing chaos. He's benevolent, but he's limited. He doesn't create from nothing. He orders what already exists, modeling it after eternal form. The result is a world that reflects divine intention, but only partially. Later in Neoplatonism, this idea evolves. The demiurge becomes an emanation of divine reason, a kind of necessary intermediary between the ineffable one, invisible spirit, that one, and the material world. He's not malicious, but he's also not the source either. The material world is seen as a less real, a shadow of a higher truth. So you can see why these early Christian mystical writings were controversial and why they were so heavily oppressed. I mean, first they introduced something that's almost entirely absent from the three major world religions: a feminine aspect of the divine. In Gnostic cosmology, the divine is not singularly male. It's paired, balanced, and regenerative with the feminine. This alone challenges centuries of theological tradition. But the second point is even more controversial. These texts don't just reinterpret the Genesis story. They call out the God of the Old Testament as a false god, as a demiurge, a lesser, ignorant creator born from a rupture of divine wisdom. This reframe is understandably offensive to many. It challenges long-held beliefs and reinterprets the sacred narrative in a way that can feel destabilizing. But on this channel, we do not attack anyone's faith. We are just exploring perspectives. We're students of mystery here, not judges of truth. We're here to learn, to listen, to understand how different traditions, our ancestors, have tried to make sense of this reality that we seem to be in. Good news is, hearing contrary beliefs doesn't threaten your own. In fact, it can deepen our understanding of what we truly believe, which I address in detail in my YouTube episode, Touching God Blindfolded. What we explore today is just one lens, one way of seeing the world through the eyes of our ancestors, and I certainly started with the most controversial lens. In upcoming episodes, I'll be exploring the other lens addressing our reality. We'll travel through ancient texts, cultures, and philosophies to see how each one answers the question, what is this place?